Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Don't Praise the Machine. This is episode 172. This is the internet's number one comedy podcast where a lawyer and a DJ chat about ways technology is changing culture and so much more. I'm one of your hosts. I go by the name John Junior Boost Maloney, and with me today, as he is every single week, is the Beast of Berlin, the Terror of Tempelhof, Alexander Apricot Pepsi Holland.
Hi, everyone. Did you just type that in just then, or did you come up with that off the top of your head?
I did type that in.
That was great. I also I haven't for a while experienced what it's like sitting through that. It is slightly more uncomfortable than I realized. I have a lot of empathy for you now because I'm kind of shrugging my shoulders like a boxer entering the ring and kind of going, I don't know what to do. What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands?
Yeah. It's hard to know exactly what. You feel like a guest who's being introduced on a game show and you're just going, yeah.
Or like when you're being...
He teaches at Campbelltown Senior College and has 2 daughters. It's Greg.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Greg. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Man, I have not seen an Australian game show for a while. I saw a clip not that long ago of, must have been Price is Right with Larry M. Dewar or maybe some other ones. And they're so dated, you know. It doesn't have to, you watch, or Wheel of Fortune with John Burgess. Man. Adriana
Really
Xanides. Yeah.
Yeah. Used to occasionally see her around Adelaide. She was for those who don't know, which will be many of you, she was the woman who in the Australian version of Wheel of Fortune used to turn the letters around.
Yeah,
she glamorously dressed up on the letterboard.
I don't want to upset you and ruin the tone of the podcast, John. But Adriana Xanides has been dead since 2010.
Oh no! Yeah, there's a bit of darkness in Australian in the Australian entertainment industry generally, but in the kind of game show world in particular, because Andrew O'Keefe, I believe his name is, who did Deal or No Deal, who may have also been from Adelaide, but in any event, he was a kind of almost inauthentically chipper, kind of upbeat character.
Yeah, I remember that demeanor.
And a bit sort of smarmy. And then after the show finished, he decided to become gravely mentally unwell and get addicted to meth. And so now you see him every 6 months or so on the Australian news because he's back in court having punched someone or smashed a window or something crazy.
Wow.
And it's really surreal because he's got the same sort of smarmy game show host look to him, but he's just kind of bedraggled and walking into a magistrate's court. It's fucking strange,
man. It's so strange. It's so strange for me when I hear things like that because I don't get that. Because most of my Australian pop culture knowledge, so my Australian celebrity knowledge, that is celebrities whose fame is limited to Australia. I don't get any of that information. So I have this 13-year hole where when I left. And O'Keefe was on top of the world, so I'm picturing a man who's still just handing out steak knife sets and making the world a better place. And the idea that he is now just like a meth head in court all the time is so bizarre to me hear that.
If you see Andrew O'Keefe with a steak knife, you have to run these days. And his lawyer's just saying to him, okay, the offer that's on the table from the prosecutor is you plead guilty and they won't go for the maximum, deal or no deal.
And everybody knew somebody who'd been on a game show, you know. There was always you'd be at a dinner party and someone say, "Oh, you know, Mike was on Sale of the Century," or you know, so and so was on, and they'd always have, because this was, I'm thinking about this many years ago. There would always be a fuzzy VHS copy of somebody in the family when they were on, and I remember when we were at school as well. there was that show. Was it called Guess What? Or there was a
Guess what?
There was a syndicated Australian children's. It was the one. It was the one with the Hey Hey It's Saturday cartoonist Andrew Fife. Am I remembering this correctly?
I thought the cartoonist's name was John Blackman.
No, that was the voiceover guy. And he was the voice of Dickie Nee. So he wasn't the puppeteer.
I think he passed away this year.
Oh, okay. So here you go. Again, I've just totally missed it. Now we have to
approach that one more delicately.
Now we have to stop the podcast.
What? John Blackman's gone.
Now we have to stop the podcast, and I have to go into mourning. There's a particular tradition that I go into when any member of Hey Hey It's Saturday passes, where I do 7 days of mourning, and I hang I hang accoutrements on the door frame out the front of my house for the spirits.
Yeah, but you do the gong. You do like a slow moving red faces.
And I sleep. I cradle my own Aussie ostrich stuffed doll. I take that to bed every night as part of the 7-day mourning. Oh no, not Red, not Wilbur Wild. But yeah, the cartoonist from Hey Hey It's Saturday, which was a variety show, and it's a very popular variety show, which, my God, I mean, I think we've mentioned Hey It's Saturday before because of that very famous, I don't want to get too off track, but because of that famous Harry Connick Jr. bit where there was an episode of Hey Hey It's Saturday where some contestants came out to do a little song and dance, and they were in blackface.
Yeah.
And this was way more recently than you would think, because they were doing the Jackson 5. And that was very Hey Hey It's Saturday. It just kept trying to still be relevant and to still have its finger on the pulse. And Harry Connick was just going, I can't. Now we have to come back from the break because my PR person has said, you have to get on top of it now. You've got to object to this now. When we come back from break, you got to have Daryl Summers by the collar, and you got to say, I do not vouch for this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That was the attempted comeback episode. So it had been off the air since a time when, at least in Australia, you could engage in fairly lowbrow, bawdy comedy of the kind that would now be frowned upon. And they basically said, let's just not evolve with the times at all. Let's do the same skit that worked in the early 80s. And people were like, this is doesn't wash anymore. Well, Harry Connick said that anyway.
But yeah,
and he said, I just whisper your name.
That's the only one I could think of as well. He must have other songs, but I just remember. One and the same. I just whisper your name. Yeah, that's the only Harry Connick song that I remember as well. But guess what was a show for kids. I think it was Guess. Was it called? Hang on, I'm just gonna make this. I don't want to get angry emails again. Guess what? Australian
from the
children's
host of Guess
show. What? Children's game show where contestants were. Here you go. I got it right. Is a children's game show where the contestants are required to guess what Andrew Fife is drawing. I cannot believe that I had Andrew Fife's name in my memory.
No, nor can I.
Still. But that was shot in Adelaide, that show. And so, or certainly some episodes of it were. And so there would be kids that you went to school with who'd been on Guess What? And you were always so jealous. You just thought, how did you get on the TV game show?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And
shout out to long-time listener Harley. I might write to him even during the show and check back in later, because I have a sneaking suspicion that he might have been like on the crew of Guess What, working behind the scenes.
Or was he on the show as a kid?
Might have been on the show, yeah.
Because now that you're mentioning that, I'm wondering if I have a memory of somebody telling me that Harley was on Guess What, or that there was maybe even a VHS tape of him. And it would make sense too, because his family was in showbiz. Yeah.
And occasionally you get the next level down, where say, an afternoon cartoon cartoon show, and there would have been equivalents of this everywhere, where you do things like send in a letter, maybe you draw a little picture of one of the characters from your favorite show, like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and then the host would say, "Here it is, everyone. Here's John from Norwood, and he's done a little picture of Donatello. That's excellent." And you'd go, "Yes, I'm fucking famous."
It'd be John Maloney from Campbelltown.
He's done
a drawing of Gore Vidal.
Yeah, that's right. His favorite commentator. He's done a what appears to be a hentai drawing of Ninja Turtles.
What do kids send in these days on those shows? Because they must email. Because they could send videos now. It'd be here's a video of a little. And what are kids called now? Quink. Here's a video of Quink. Is that one of the hottest boys' names? Hottest non-gendered names of 2024 is Quink.
Yeah, here's a little video of Quink, and he's done a little drawing of what he imagines a microaggression might look like if it were a character. That's the kind of shit they do.
And then
now.
the person who's been microaggressed against is just crying, and it says, "Can't you see how you've given them trauma?" There's like stink lines coming off them, but it says they're trauma lines. It says there's arrows pointed to the lines, and it says trauma. It's got loads of trauma lines going off.
And someone's firing a gun called the destigmatizer. This is real grumpy old man stuff we've got going now.
I have a fun thing here if you want to hear this.
Yeah, great.
I was with my dear friend Dom and my other dear friend Marion, who is his wife, and shout out to their beautiful baby boy, Elio, everyone's favorite boy in Barcelona, whose dad's Australian and mother is French. So that kid going to be speaking 3 languages fluently without ever having to lift a finger. Think about that. He's going to be fluent in English, Catalan, and Spanish, I assume, and French. Imagine that, real quick. It's going to be happening real quick.
Great.
But
he'll be the most multilingual Australian citizen,
in the history,
in the world.
And I was at their house in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago, and we were having dinner together. And I was talking about how one of my talents is being able to remember faces quite well and voices. And so I was talking about some experiences I've had where somebody who was a background character in a film, I will see them on the street and I will pick them straight away, and I'll remember you were in that film. Or I'm quite good with voices, so I watch animated feature films and I'll just be able to pick all the celebrities that are doing the voices quite quickly. Or I watch TV commercials, particularly in the UK. It's been a thing for many years to use celebrities to do voiceovers. Like Adam Buxton does a bunch of voiceovers on UK commercials. And so I was saying that at the table, and Dom said to me, "You know what Marion's superpower is?" And I said, "No." And he said, "She remembers everybody's eye color." And I said, "Wow, that can't be. I've never heard of this. That can't be true." And he goes, "Watch this." And he just started saying names, and she was scoffing at him like, "Oh, give me a hard one." And these were people that like weren't even that close to her, like people that she'd met at hand. It was incredible. I'd never seen anything like it. She was just she didn't miss every single person. She was like blue, green, blue, gray, brown, brown, brown,
Holy
blue.
crap.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't even I'm trying to think now what color Jacinta's eyes are. I'm not
exactly.
even sure.
Yeah. And similarly,
I don't even know if she has. I can't even be sure she has eyes.
I'm just trying to remember if she has eyes.
Yeah.
So that isn't that just crazy how people's brains work differently. And so she was just able to list everybody. And I remember I sometimes note I remember friends of mine who have blue eyes, like you yourself, John, have beautiful blue eyes. But I have a couple of like my friend Jordan has blue eyes as well. And I remember I remember like a year ago, he was sitting on my couch and I was talking to him and he got up to go to the bathroom and I remember sitting there going, oh fuck, Jordan's got blue eyes. Like if you'd asked me before that moment when I had really been paying attention, maybe the light caught them or something. It just wasn't in my, I just don't register people's eye color.
That's wild. And will she do celebrities? Like if you said to her, or historical figures? Wow, she'd do that as well.
As long as I'm sure, as long as their eye color was visible enough on the screen, I'm sure it would be the same. We can get her on. First guest on the show is going to be Marion, just talking about, and that actually would be quite fun if she said, yeah, no, it's a piece of piss, and then we did an eye color test with her. She's got a beautiful voice for the podcast as well.
Yeah, that'd be good. Nice accent to replace our nasal Australian accent.
She's got a beautiful, neutral European accent with a very, very gentle French lilt.
There you go. There's a woman who I've been reading about, an Australian woman named Rebecca Sharrock, who apparently can remember, has some condition that there's a name for, but the name is something that just sounds made up, like, ultra fine memory syndrome. And she's basically able to remember every day of her life in great detail.
What?
And will say she's one of, a very small number of documented cases. And you can say, what were you doing 10 years ago on Tuesday, the 12th of June? And she'll go, okay, well, first I got up and I did this and I had this for breakfast and blah, blah, blah. It's just wild. And she claims to have memories of even being in the womb, which is pretty wild. And if anyone could, it would be her. And I don't know. I mean, the downside of that would be that if you did something embarrassing or you had a painful breakup or something, you just would not, your brain would just torture you with that. Whereas, I can barely, after a while, I just stop remembering those things and it helps me overcome them.
Don't you think that it's wild? And I don't want to terrify anybody out there, but this is quite I think this is quite a confronting thought that I had pointed out to me recently when I was doing one of my spirit quests where I'm reading books on spirituality and taking peyote, things like this. And somebody mentioned that we just don't remember virtually all the days of our lives. And if I was to say to you now, so what is it today? Today's Friday. Now, sometimes Fridays are easier to remember because they're marked by events on the Friday evening. But if I said to you, John, what did you do last Tuesday, John?
Yeah, no idea.
Isn't that freaky? Don't you think that's freaky?
Tuesday. I think I'm kind of I think there's something where I don't have a very good episodic memory, so I'll remember like obscure facts or I'll remember specific experiences. But if you say to me, what did you have for dinner last night? I'll take quite a while to figure that out because I have to step back through things. And, if I do something notable or I go out for dinner or something, then I will. But, that is freaky because you get to the end of your life or you think about, okay, well, I'm in my early 40s and I've got another 40 years to go. But in terms of quality time, that's probably about a week.
Yeah, in terms of time, you're going to remember. You've probably only got a week's worth of remembering. Yeah. You only remember a combined week of good times. I mean, it does speak to a need for us to be more present and to try and to not spend more time in memory, because it just kind of shows you that our memory is just this weird smattering of events that they're not even connected to the actual days in which they occurred. We'll think, I did that thing. No. I did that thing that was embarrassing, and somebody could say, what day did that happen on, or when? And often people just be like, I don't know, what year? I don't remember. I just have this painful this little twinge of some thought.
I just remember farting at a party. I can't even tell you whose party it was. but I can never forget how humiliated I felt. Thanks, brain.
But it's just wild that we I don't remember. I mean, I do remember I went to a kind of networking thing yesterday. This wasn't on my sheet, but maybe we could I'm a bit more schmoozy. I wouldn't say schmoozy, but I'm a bit more open to networky things these days. So I'm kind of trying to make some connections in the marketing space at the moment. And I went to the Berlin startup. I think it's called the Berlin Startup Institute. There's lots of. Are you familiar with startup incubators, John?
Oh yeah, tell me.
Is that true?
I don't know. Nah, not really. I mean, I'm aware of people going to kind of, events and organizations that help get these people together, help them share ideas, give them tips and tricks.
It was cool. It was really cool. I haven't been in an environment this encouraging and excited for quite a long time. So I heard about it through another friend of mine that I did a course with. And so I just popped down to it because you just pre-registered. And what it was one of apparently many startup incubators in Berlin. This one is connected to a university. And every month, I think, they host events where they invite members of the public to test the platforms and apps and startups, because it's all tech stuff. So, everything's got some sort of platform that you can test or whatever. So they invite members of the public to come, and all the founders of these startups, they all have almost like they all have a little desk that they're standing behind, like a little lectern, and they have a laptop on it and some papers. And when you first go there, there's a guy who obviously heads up a lot of the startup incubator programs, and he introduces himself, and you're sitting down watching him. And there was, I don't know, maybe like 30 people that came to test, maybe 40. And then he says, okay, all the founders are going to give you a little 1-minute pitch before you go around to their startup ideas and test them. And it was great. And people just jumped up on stage and were just like, hey. And, some of them were really good at it in that they knew that the way that you capture people's attention is, with the story. It was very classic.
Yeah. TED Talky style.
It's very, what was it called? Theranos, that woman who came up with it was very like, it was like people, Thanos, I think that's maybe a Marvel. I think it's a Marvel
thing. Theranos. She'd say.
But yeah, they would jump up on stage.
I can test your blood, she would say. And people would cheer.
When she really couldn't. And so people would jump up on stage and they go, hey guys, I mean, not with such an American accent. Hey guys, I got a question for you. And then everyone would go, oh, what's the question? And they go, I can't even remember what some of them were. Aren't you guys sick of trying to fix your legal problems and it's really difficult? Well, I got the solution for you. And then it would be some AI ChatGPT thing that you feed. And it was
Cinco e-trial.
Yeah, it was the Cinco e-trial. And it was just, I haven't been in an environment for that.
So what were you, did you have an idea that you were bringing to the table?
No, I was just going
to observe?
I was going to just meet people because they're all early stage startups. They're the kind of people that I would be it would be worth getting to know, because I could say, hey, yo, let me help you.
Totally.
Let me help you make TikTok videos about one of the startups was a erotic audio startup. So it was funny because everything else was like everything else was quite dry. There was a lot of I've made a ChatGPT thing that helps you with your legal documents, or I've made a ChatGPT thing one was a guy that helped you with legal documents. Another one was a ChatGPT that helped you with grant applications, which was quite a clever idea. And then one of them was just, we've got this community audio platform for dirty audios. And then so I just put my headphones on, and they handed me the phone, and it just was like Monica moans. Yeah, that was literally it.
Wow.
And so I was just and so I was just listening to that, going, okay, do you guys need any help with? I didn't even want to offer my help.
Take 10.
So that was me. Yeah, that was me at the startup incubator. I met loads of people. I got about another 10 LinkedIn friends, And
nice.
it was nice. It was a fun little thing, and it's just cool being around people that are
Hopefully some of them are listening.
Yeah. I did tell loads of them about the podcast actually, and the podcast is woven quite a lot through my LinkedIn profile. So I think if they go and check it out, they will find me. They will find me there, and it was just cool being somewhere where everybody was so encouraging of everybody and people just doing things. It wasn't, nobody was like, oh, I've been going to the same government job for 30 years and I just want to retire. Just let me retire and die. It was like all these people that have got an idea to solve a problem and then all these other people around them encouraging them. Oh, it was infectious positivity.
Yeah, that's nice. Fix your legal documents and listen to someone having an orgasm. That's great. That's a lovely night in. Can I tell you about something that I've been looking at during the week that involves people kind of in the same space or in an adjacent space, people working with technology, but in a more artistic capacity?
Yes, please. Yes, I love technology. Yes, I love technology. Do you remember that? Do you remember Napoleon Dynamite?
I do. Yeah, a classic.
It's taken me 171 episodes to do but I love technology. Yes, I love. I think he sings it to his girlfriend LaFonda.
We should put that. We should have a sample board with that on it. So you were talking some weeks ago now about the effect that AI image generation is going to have on our appreciation of aesthetic forms and creations. And I heard a story recently which pricked my ears up. Is that the expression? Which got my attention. And I thought, this has got "Don't praise the machine" written all over it. So there's a bit of a history to, obviously, the interaction between arts and AI, albeit a relatively recent history, but goes back a couple of years. In particular, the use of AI by artists to create these forms that they will take credit for, or, that will win some accolades, even though the process for creating them is a very non-traditional, very technology-driven, and increasingly, you might think, a process that's a bit passive, or that it doesn't directly involve the artists in a traditional sense employing their artistic skills. So famously, a couple of years ago, there was this case, and it kind of shows how far things have come when you read these articles that are now 2 years old. Yeah, they're sort of dealing with...
That's an age ago, isn't it?
It's an age ago. And they're dealing with this stuff that, and these questions that now seem relatively old hat. We might actually bring some of the artistic creations that I'm going to mention up on the screen, but for anyone who's watching on YouTube. And I'll start by sending you one, actually. So this is from 2022, and I'll send it to you in a minute. But the context is there was an art show in Colorado, an art contest, and this guy, Jason Allen, created a piece of art which he called Teatro d'Opera Spatiale, which I think means something like the Space Opera Theatre. And it won the Blue Ribbon in this Colorado Art Fair. And he was quite upfront about the fact that he'd used Midjourney to create it, which would have then been, pretty novel. He was, I think, a guy who, as well as being a keen artist, made video games and other things, and so was pretty plugged into AI image generation technology. And he was on some kind of creator Discord chat, and people were raving about Midjourney, and then he just got obsessed with Midjourney. And, a bit like I've talked about getting obsessed with Bing's image generator, he punched in hundreds of requests and was just amazed by the fact that it could produce things that, seemingly would not it wouldn't run out of ideas. He'd try and challenge it by putting weird stuff in there and crossing genres and so on. It would keep coming up with these clever images. So he entered one into the Colorado Art Fair and won, and everyone was displeased. And he was like, well, I was upfront about the fact that this was what I was doing.
Yeah.
And, that's that. And this is the image. I'll just send it to you now. And what strikes me looking at it now is that it's actually not particularly impressive by modern standards, but also that you would instantly go, oh yeah, this is very likely AI generated. People knew that it was digitally created,
Okay.
but I suspect the artists didn't, the judges didn't know that it was, they probably didn't have a good handle on what Midjourney involved and just how
that it was
little was involved.
Yeah, that it was literally a prompt as opposed to traditional Photoshop where you'd spend hours compositing things and layering things. That's not what's happening with Midjourney.
Exactly. And anyway, so that caused a bit of an uproar, and people were, pointing to it as a sign of the times and where's this all going, etc. Fast forward to April the following year, so this is last year, and there was a World Photography Organization's Sony World Photography Awards, and this guy Boris Alderson won an entry with an entry called The Electrician. And I'll show you The Electrician. I mean, tell me what you think. But to me, that is very recognizably AI.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe not very recognizably, but there are some telltale signs, like the kind of slightly too perfect shading of the skin and the placement of the hands.
It looks a little bit like, I would describe it, for anybody who's not looking, I would describe it as it looks as though a painter has tried to recreate an old black and white photograph. If you said to a very skilled artist, can you use paint to make a photorealistic old black and white photograph look? That's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's right. And so this was the Sony World Photography Awards, and this piece was called The Electrician. It's described in the article that I read, one of the articles. Appears like an old photograph showing two women, one of whom crouches behind the other. Another person's hands extend towards the front woman's body. And Alderson won for this image. And in this case, the judges did not know that it was created with AI.
Right.
So they thought, unlike Alan, he hadn't been upfront about that. And they thought, well, this is just a really interesting black and white photo that's probably been treated in the usual kind of ways. But, it was essentially, it never existed as a photo. And they awarded this prize to him, and then he kind of said, look, I just put this in to make a statement about AI and art. And he said, at the time, just as photography replaced painting in the reproduction of reality, AI will replace photography. He says, don't be afraid of the future. It will just be more obvious that our mind always created the world that makes it suffer. I don't quite know what that means. Very artistic, wanky statement. And then he says, AI images and photography should not compete with each other in an award like this. They are different entities. AI is not photography. Therefore, I will not accept the award. We, the photo world, need an open discussion, a discussion about what we want to consider photography and what not. Is the umbrella of photography large enough to invite AI images to enter, or would this be a mistake? Great question. And it's one of the questions that we've posed in a different form on our show.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the kind of next story that I think typified what was going on, where people were falsely entering AI-generated images into awards that were intended for human-created imagery. And then there was a thing called the 1839 Photography Awards just this year. And this was actually intended to be, I guess, in a kind of response to some of those questions that people like Alderson had been asking, was intended to create a category that allowed for the entry of AI-generated images in awards. And I guess allowed people, to be upfront about the fact that some of what they were doing was with the assistance of AI, so they could still compete in their use of AI technology, and they'd enter the AI generated categories of these awards. So this guy Miles Astray, or Astray perhaps, he submitted this image, and it took out first place in the AI category of the People's Vote Award at the Photography Awards, and then I think subsequently it took out third place in the sort of judges awards in the AI category, and it was an image called Flamingon, which was a play on flamingo, and I'll send it to you as well.
So you're saying this was entered into an AI specific photography category?
That's right. Yeah. So now we're at a point where, these awards are starting to be open about the fact that this is happening and trying to, I guess, find a place for it. And they get this image of Flamingon, which looks like something very AI generated. It's essentially a kind of salt flat and the image of kind of the shore of maybe a salt lake, such as the kind of habitat that a lot of flamingos live in. And then there's this bird-like form, which has a body and long flamingo legs, but seemingly no head. So it looks like, he's entered a weird prompt, like do a headless flamingo or something. And so he won these awards. But then it turned out that he'd done the old switcheroo and that actually this was not an AI-generated image. So he was kind of turning this dilemma on its head by winning an AI-generated award with a human-generated photo, which just was it was just that the flamingo was in a weird, like it was probably, preening itself, and it was in a weird position. And people were kind of annoyed because, he'd given them the runaround, and the judges were pretty esteemed people. They were from Christie's, the auction house. They were from Fight On, the publisher. Some of them were from the New York Times, kind of arts critic faculty at the New York Times. And Astray said that he deliberately submitted this as a means to advocate for human-made pictures. He says, with AI-generated content remodeling the digital landscape rapidly while sparking an ever-fiercer debate about its implications for the future of content and the creators behind it. From creators like artists, journalists, and graphic designers to employees of all sorts in all sorts of industries, I entered this actual photo into the AI category of the 1839 awards to prove that human-made content has not lost its relevance, that Mother Nature and her interpreters can still beat the machine, and that creativity and emotion are more than just a string of digits, which I think is, a lovely sentiment, and that's why I've decided to award Miles Astray the inaugural Don't Praise the Machine Defending the World from Robots award.
That's great. What a twist. I love that.
I know.
I love that.
Twist.
I love that
Yeah.
twist. I love that twist at the end. He's wrong, unfortunately, Miles. His little that's nobody's gonna give a fuck, and nobody will be able to tell within I like his Flamingon, but
yeah.
But that's, I mean, if that in a couple of years, if somebody's got some incredible AI created photograph thing, it's going to look way better than that.
And no one says human beings can't make nice photos. It's just that it's a lot cheaper to avoid getting them to go out and do that when you can just get AI to do it.
Yeah.
So Miles, but I love your spirit.
And you've won, and the award is in the mail. John sent me a photograph last night of his kitchen table covered in glitter and glue and wood and nails and gold spray paint.
Yeah,
and text.
That's right.
He texted on the bottom a little marker, inaugural Saving World from Robots award. Don't praise machine.
Exactly. Don't praise machine. Yeah, it's shaped like a computer mouse. It's got a little shiny jewel on the top of it, and it's got the name Miles Astray.
So his surname is Ashtray?
Ashtray, yeah, Miles Ashtray. Astray. Tried to do that in glitter. Didn't come out great. Sorry, Miles. So I was never very good on the crafty projects, but hopefully you don't interpret the strange package that I'm sending you as a threat.
I've written here, John, something you're going to real love. Speaking of AI, or as we pronounce it over here, AI. Welcome. This is to the AI section of the podcast.
We should start doing that. Yeah.
Are you familiar? Do you know the one word that has been the giveaway in academic papers of the last 2 years that lets everybody know that the academic in question has used ChatGPT to help them with their papers. Have you read this article?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Is it? It's a word. It's a word. Not a phrase.
So there's one word, and I can tell you right now.
Okay.
ChatGPT commonly uses this word. This is from airphrasefinder.com. Wrote an article about it. This was in the media recently. ChatGPT commonly uses this word because it is a common word in academic writing, a field in which the chatbot has received extensive training. And once I tell you the word, I'll show you the graph as well, John. The word is delve.
Delve.
So
okay.
I'm going to send you here this chart from a guy on Twitter whose name I will also give you. So this is quite stunning. So this is a graph showing, copy image. This is a graph from showing the use of the word delve in MedPub publications, a medical studies journal. Have a look there, John.
Yeah.
This is from Jeremy Nguyen, and maybe you can just have a glance at that and perhaps.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So can you describe the chart to people and maybe even read a little bit of what Jeremy's written? This was from March this year.
Yeah, so Jeremy Nguyen says, are medical studies being written by ChatGPT? Well, we all know ChatGPT overuses the word delve. Well, I didn't know that, but thank you, Jeremy, for that information. He says, look below at how often the word delve is used in papers on PubMed. 2023 was the first full year of ChatGPT, and what you get, and it goes from 1990 through to 2024.
Yeah.
Admittedly, you do get a gradual uptick in the use of that word, which probably just comes from it being a fashionable word, but then it's a pretty subtle and natural looking incline up to 2022. Then in 2023, it increases from what appears to be just over 500 uses to well over 2,500. So that's many times an increase. And then 2024 is slightly lower, but still extremely high compared to the preceding, 33 years. So something's going on, you got to admit. And if it's anything like the non-humanities students I know, they hate writing things.
Yeah, of course.
They would be the first people to jump on ChatGPT as a way of expressing ideas.
It looks as well as I'm thinking the fact that it started to trail off in 2024 maybe also suggests that the LLM is getting slightly more diverse in its use of language. Perhaps if we look at that graph over the next few years, that spike will trail off as it starts to use a wider selection of interesting or descriptive language for not just academic papers, but for everything. So we might see these interesting graphs where there's this brief period where the LLMs have picked very specific words or phrases or other tricks, and they've really overused them. But then as they become more complex, much like humans ourselves, they perhaps start to try and search for things that make the writing look a little bit more creative.
Totally. But also the effect probably will be in part to increase the use of the word delve, because anyone who's coming into the field will read paper after paper with the word delve littering it. And then go, I guess this is like a term of this industry that I better just say I've delved into something.
Yeah.
It's in, it's been fed to me in the last 2,500 articles I've read. That's bizarre. I wonder why. I mean, it's quite a bland word, but I suppose it is just distinctive enough to pick up on its overuse.
I was very upset when I read this article because for the last 10 years, I've actually been working on a novel which I've written entirely myself. I started it way before ChatGPT, which is a novel called Danny Delver Delves Down Deep. And I had to use the word delve hundreds of times because it's the story of Danny Delve. And he's a deep sea diver. He's a deep sea diver who's delving down deep. And now when I submit Danny Delve Dives Deep Down, my novel, my tragedy drama novel to publishers.
Yeah.
They just look at this and they just go, you think we were born yesterday? You think we're going to...
Exactly. The good people at Phaidon who've just gotten through the Miles ashtray scandal, they're like, we're not fucking doing this again. Get this off my desk.
Danny Delve.
Danny
Delves deep down is perhaps was the working title of my novel.
Deep down in Delvetown. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Jeremy Nguyen. I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that great?
That's a good tip for me because, I mean, I just got finished marking a whole bunch of essays, and I do wonder, you know, sometimes when you get one that's not spectacular and it's also not terrible.
Yeah.
You know, so it's in that range where you think this could be ChatGPT.
There's even...
Although sometimes you think this, sometimes you read one and think, why didn't you use ChatGPT? It's there.
John, I think that's a perfect way to bring us close to the end of podcast number 172. Do you want to do the outro bit as well into the new thing that we have to announce?
Yeah, I can do the exciting honors here.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been lacing some of the recent newsletters with a few clues, with a few indications that something might be afoot. And in recent weeks and months, Alessandro Apricot, Pepsi Holland, and I have been hard at work, particularly you of late, Alan. I appreciate those efforts, tweaking a new avenue in the development of DPTM as a venture, and that is the commencement of our Patreon offerings for you, our loyal and beloved DPTMers. And the way that it works, many of you will be familiar with Patreon. Many of you might be contributors to other things that you want to support, is that there will be multiple tiers. You can have a look. You can get on over there. It's very exciting. We've come up with, after quite a lot of discussion and contemplation, a range of products and benefits that you can be afforded in each of those tiers, which include things like merchandising, hot new products that you might have access to as part of your membership or might get a discount to as part of your membership. It includes things like bonus episodes, it includes early episodes, and excitingly, it includes the opportunity to start an account, to have a presence on a virtual community group that we hope will bring people closer to us and also closer to each other as fellow travelers on this DPTM journey.
Yeah.
Al?
Yeah, exactly, John. So we've been back and forthing about this for a very long time, and we were trying to think of the best way for us to offer some merch and extras, and also a way that the DPTM community can support the production of the show. And Patreon seems to be the way that all of the podcasters go, where I don't, if you want me to just briefly explain everybody how podcast advertising works, you have to have a huge volume of listeners before you can make podcast advertising work. And even once you do, it's still you shilling other people's products. Not saying that we wouldn't do that eventually if a sort of landmine company comes to us and says, look, we really think we have the best landmines in the business.
Cluster bombs, yeah.
It was a mom and pop outfit, Clancy's Cluster Bombs from Pennsylvania. Just use code DPTM off your first stack of cluster bombs. But
if you want to give intruders a wallop, go with Clancy's.
And so we've set up the Patreon this week, and we are going to be offering, like John said, we've committed to doing one exclusive Patreon members only episode per month. And then we have other things in there. It's going to be the first ever DPTM t-shirt.
Nude leaks.
It's going to be weekly nude leaks. Why? It's so funny that you call them like, even though we'd be offering it on the Patreon. We'll just
right.
pretend that every week I'll just send out an email saying, guys, I've hacked John's phone again. There's been I've got another tranche of John Maloney nude leaks, and you just angrily shaking your fist. Stop hacking my phone. Stop taking my leaks.
And me just like taking photos of myself in the mirror coming out of the shower.
And then you get me back, and then you're like, guys, this week I managed to get my own back on Al, and I have another tranche of nude leaks of Al, and I'm like, what?
That's actually,
that John?
That's a pretty good idea.
Tit for tat leaks and hacks. And we even have cameo style videos that are going to be coming, so you can check it all out now. The most important detail is the URL, which is patreon.com/DPTM. We're doing a bit of a soft launch at the moment. We've given it a lot of thought, as I mentioned, but we're also going to see how it goes over the first few months to see which tiers people are interested in and what offers people seem to be the most interested in. And people might even write in and say, oh, actually, could you offer this? Could you offer that? So let us know. You can shoot us an email at hello@dptm.org. But I don't want to confuse you with too many URLs. Forget about that one. And the one that you want to check out right now, that's why we left it to the end of the podcast, so you can check out the tiers. It's patreon.com/DPTM. You know what, John? I haven't checked out. I'm assuming that it looks great on mobile, but I actually haven't looked at what the mobile site looks like. Have you got your phone there, John? Why don't you?
Going on right now.
I'm going to hold up my phone. I'm going to go www.patreon.com on my phone right now. Guys, follow along at home /DPTM and look at that. Oh my God, it's an absolute thing of mobile beauty. It says, are you 18 years or old? I don't know why it asks why I need to be 18 to see the Don't Praise the Machine. There we go, guys. I'm going to hold up to the phone. There we are.
Look at that. That's beautiful.
So if you're interested, guys, jump on over there. It's the best way to support Don't Praise the Machine, the podcast, and the show that we've been doing for the last 172 episodes won't change. John, do you want to hold yours up so people can see what it looks like on iPhone? Mine was Android, by the way. Look at that.
Phone there.
Look at that.
Lovely. You could download, I guess you can download the Patreon app if you so choose. Just remember to click yes, because I hit no first time it said, are you over 18? And then I had to
call them.
I had to call them and provide 3 forms of ID. So be careful with that.
I'd like to join Patreon, please, with an extra large
credit card.
You got it. That's what the Patreon people said. They said, no worries, Mr. Maloney. Okay, I've just verified you. Would you like to pay for Patreon DPTM with credit? Credit card? You got it.
And then I put in the wrong tape and it said, go to hell, you filthy animal. So
the show that we've been doing 172 episodes will be exactly the same. Still going to be coming out free on all your favorite platforms. I'm talking about Spotify. I'm talking about Apple Podcasts. I'm talking about YouTube, where things are really starting to build up momentum and heat. So that will all stay the same, but we will be offering a few exclusive benefits / bonuses to our Patreons. Patreon.com /DPTM. John Maloney, do you want to see us out? You know you make me want to shout.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this week's episode of Don't Praise the Machine. This has been episode 172. As always, I've been one of your hosts. I go by the name John Junior Boost Maloney, and I'm joined by my co-host, the great Tyrant of Temple Hoff, Alexander Junior Boost Holland, and we can't. Yeah, sorry, you can jump in. We can't wait to see you next week
at the podcast.